My name is Syed. I'm your host for today's discussion. For those of us joining the first time, SimpleTalk is a group of unbiased business professionals to discuss technology, business trends, challenges, and solutions faced today. With me joining today is Nabeel Siddiqi. Also joining me is Ahmed. Also joining me is Nauman Afsar. Welcome, gentlemen. Our topic for today is challenges in e-commerce. And my first question would be for Nabeel. So Nabeel, what trends and technologies are emerging today when it comes to e-commerce?
Well, e-commerce is a huge area, and although the purchasing size, I mean, when we talk about e-commerce, of course, we relate to the retail industry. So the purchasing size of e-commerce is pretty small compared to the overall volume of retail industry. Normally, it is around 15%. But it has a huge impact. And if you look at the technological side of this e-commerce, what I would like to highlight is one is the social media e-commerce, I would say. So the integration of the social media with the e-commerce is really now evolving with a much higher pace when it used to be a year or 2 years or 3 years back. I do not find anyone who says that I don't like WhatsApp. So WhatsApp is the de facto standard of communication. So using WhatsApp to do a lot of e-commerce activities, to respond to e-commerce steps of the transactions, I think it's a very convenient way, and this will be the next emerging part within the e-commerce, which will definitely revolutionize the way we interact with the e-commerce platforms.
Very well said, Nabeel. And I'll pose the same question to Hamad on the technologies that are emerging today. Hamad, what is your view on?
So Nabeel covered it very well. I would not repeat what Nabeel has said. The one thing which I really want to focus on is the security, how they are going to handle the fraud management. I ordered a few days ago, I ordered a Huawei phone. Yeah, what I get was completely different. It was Huawei phone, but it was made out of Terra. So those things are very important. When you definitely, when Nabeel was saying that, yes, it's big players are there, and there is only how many 15% or 10% are on retail business, but this is changing now. Every household, whether it's wife, husband, children, they are now trying to order through e-commerce. And the most important thing for me would be first security and fraud management. That's my take on it.
Very well. Yes, I completely agree with you on both sides. That the social media and the security and the e-commerce kind of are all coming together. They all have to go together. Nauman, your views on this?
Well, I mean, honestly, there's not much left to be said because it's nicely covered by these two gentlemen. But I'll only add one thing, not from a technology perspective, but from a trend perspective. As the e-commerce revolutionizes on a very fast pace, this market is $1 trillion globally. What's really important from a trend perspective, it's getting more crucial right now, is the customer satisfaction aspect. As a consumer, how comfortable am I transacting business on this platform through e-commerce? How comfortable am I rather than walking into a store and feeling the product myself and then picking it up and bringing it home versus ordering it online? And what are the different offering from the platform to me as a provider from that point of view? Am I comfortable? Am I a happy customer at the end of the day? That I think is very crucial. It's going to be very important, and it's growing a lot as we move forward.
Very good point, Nauman. And my next question. And my next question, Nauman, is again for you. So despite huge market size opportunities, still many countries are lacking e-commerce giants. And I mean, could you give us your view on that? Like, why is that the case?
Yeah, no, look, that's a very good question, and say it because look, e-commerce. If you divide e-commerce into two segments, right? It's B2B, business to business, and it's B2C, which is business to consumer. Now, the B2C is where we see the real growth uh, and more investments happening. Now, the B2B can be limited, from small businesses buying from large retailers and then, using that
Mm-hmm.
business and then selling it further to the consumers. But from a B2C perspective, that's the key market. Now, the challenges from a growth perspective into the developing countries, there's an array because even in the developed countries, which are developed right now, where the e-commerce is, the local compliance and legality laws play a very critical role for all the e-commerce giants as well, because at the end of the day, you're touching directly with the consumer. Now, if you go into developing countries now, and that could be in Africa, that could be in some parts of Asia as well. And let's take Africa for an example, which is at the moment the least impacted or least a continent which has been least revolutionized by e-commerce is extremely unreliable and expensive internet. The infrastructure is deficit, it's old infrastructure. There are very high delivery costs, security and mistrust, because how would the logistics happen to be delivered, supply chain issues, how the deliveries are going to happen from that point of view. And the biggest point is the high illiteracy rate. From an education perspective, are the people mentally ready to go down that path or not? So, and when a large e-commerce giant, and not to name, but you can pick any big giant in the world right
Mm-hmm.
now, would look into these factors that is this the right risk associated with me going into the market for the sake of growth, or am I going to address these issues? Now, saying that, I mean, no offense to any country at the moment, these things are changing. In Africa as well, if you go to the southern part of the Africa, it's still very diverse from an e-commerce perspective. The east and the west are as well. The central is growing as well. If you go to the northern part of Africa, it's changing as well. If you move into the Levant, a region of the world as well, there's a lot of revolution. So this market will continue to grow. There is no reasons about it. The developing countries will have an impact, and this is because because of the few reasons I explained. And I think it's a more of time. The online fraud, the security, which Hamad mentioned about, the lack of trust, the mobile payment options, and all that stuff. I think as soon as that moves progressionally, I think we'll move forward with those developing countries having the e-commerce flavor as well.
Excellent points, Nauman. Nabeel, your 2 cents on this?
Yeah, I think I completely agree with what Nauman has said, and there is much more to add because it's a multi-dimensional decision-making criteria. So security, the last mile, I mean, how you deliver the products, the counterfeit, what Hamad was saying, they all contribute to the market dynamics to say it's a go or not go. But however, I mean, there are many countries you would say that the literacy rate is much better, the mobile internet or the e penetration is there, but still they don't have those giants. So I would add on top of what Nauman was explaining that the political system and the laws, I mean, also plays a major role in these big giants operating in those countries, because again, I mean, we should not forget, as I mentioned earlier, that the target market for them is the SMB, small and medium businesses, which is the biggest pie in any economy in the GDP growth. And on top of that, what the governments are looking for is not really to import and distribute the goods within the population. Rather, what they aim and what attracts them is the re-export or the export of their manufacturing through these. So, for example, if you look at the big giants, I mean, of course, we all know those big giants, eBay and Amazon. So the countries who are really reaping the benefit are the countries who export to the cross-border. So those are the countries which are really reaping the benefits in terms of their economical growth. So when we really look at these areas, so the political system of the country or the territory, the laws which protects the payment system, for example. So if any big giant wants to be there, he needs to make sure that he can easily take out the payment as well, his earnings as well. And the taxation laws, the customs, the logistics, the training, the literacy rate, as Nauman was mentioning, the security. So all these elements, have their own weightage. If a lot of those criteria are not in green, then definitely they will not be interested to do a business there, despite the fact that there's a huge potential.
Thank you, Nabeel. Very well covered. Hamad, in terms of infrastructure, and same question to you, is infrastructure also playing a role in this aspect?
Absolutely. This is. I thought about it. That what has been till now, what is missing? They both covered it very well. Two things. One is definitely infrastructure readiness, and second thing is safety. Not security of the platform, but safety as well. Now, what I have noticed why they are unable to adopt or why they are unable to implement this e-commerce is basically adoption. So in my opinion, everything is related to adoption. Still, people want to go out and buy and see the product. Yeah, they don't have good internet connection. If I place the order, maybe my money would detect, but I might not get the product.
Then they need to be comfortable.
All the infrastructure is there, safety is there, and adoption is there. Once these three key areas are developed, then definitely those countries will adopt e-commerce much faster, by the way.
I would add, I mean, the trust factor in a lot of the underdeveloping countries, that even if they have the e-commerce, the local players, when they order the products, they don't use the credit cards, they use the cash on delivery service,
Absolutely.
That's right.
And even if they are having a couple of credit cards in their pocket, but it's just, as Hamad was explaining, the lack of trust.
Adoption. It all comes into adoption.
Very, very good, Hamad. And I mean, and let me pose my next question to you, Hamad, because it's kind of a link to what we just discussed. How's the supply chain coping with the online shopping experience that people are having? How's that going?
I'll give you an example of today. So I had a very bad experience today with this supply chain. Yeah, I usually go and order through Amazon. Yeah, but Eid is coming. Children want to buy new clothes, so we ordered few things from online shop. Yeah, the clothes, and I was really frustrated with. They charged me almost around 40% for the delivery. Yeah. So when I asked what is the issue, they said because of COVID. Our systems are not ready. We are struggling with our demand and supply. Yeah. So this should not happen, because as soon as this happened to those countries, so it's linked with the previous question. As soon as these things happen with those countries which are currently adopting this new e-commerce thing, this will fail.
Thank you, Ahmed. Nauman, your take on this?
Yeah, look, I think supply chain is under a lot of pressure right now, because the dependency is very high on them. Because with the recent changes, and I'm sure you refer to the pandemic we all are going through right now, and I think with that, everyone is now relying on the e-commerce platform for their business transaction, in both B2B and B2C, right? And as a result, there's more pressure on the logistics. And I think the way the supply chain also and the logistics get together hand in hand, right? they are under a lot of pressure from a readiness point of view and from a delivery point of view. And that goes back to my first point I made in the first question, customer satisfaction, because at the end of the day, whatever you do, the whole experience comes down to your supply chain. If your supply chain really messes up at the end, it doesn't matter what you're buying, at what price you're buying, or from who you're buying, it's always a mess, right? So that's why I think they're under a lot of pressure. There's a lot of measures being taken care by all these big giants to mitigate that. They're having alliances with the local bodies within the other countries where they're not physically present, and they're also having their own. They're stocking in warehousing, and they're having the readiness of availability locally in the big hubs. Yeah.
Thank you, Nauman. Yes, I completely agree with you. Nabeel?
Yeah, I think as my colleagues they said, so if you take the opinion pool, you have it now because 3 people and they share the same pool, same opinion. So the most frustrating part in the e-commerce is basically the last mile delivery, what they call it technically. That when the courier guy calls you up and says, sir, I want to deliver the packet to you today, and you're waiting all the day, he does not show up, and then you will get a call next day and some apologies. So sorry, I was unable to find your location. Now, can you please tell me which time? And it is the most annoying part to agree a time and location where you will receive your product. Okay, and it's equally annoying for the retailers or for the e-commerce giants as well, because it's difficult for them also to find the customer at the right place at the right time, what was planned. And if you mess up that planning, their schedules, they get messed up. So that's the most annoying part. And because of the latest and the current conditions, they have been under a lot of pressure for sure. We all can see that without any statistics. It's very obvious. However, the interesting fact which I learned a few months back, that the last mile delivery is almost the 50% cost of the overall delivery cost for the e-commerce. So that's very interesting, and that's still the most frustrating part. Now, how this will be sweetened, I think this is a multi-million-dollar question, and it will goes back to my first statement when I said that the integration of the social media and the ease of communication using the technologies which my fingers are more used to and I use it the most. So such help to improve such a situation, but at a moment I can say that yes, we all are frustrated with this kind of service on the last mile delivery.
Completely agree. Thank you, Nabeel. And yes, I think it's the 360 experience that really that needs to be offered. And one last line from my side would be times are tough. Business climate is changing fast, but also it poses a lot of opportunities. When there is pressure, people are struggling. That means there are opportunities. Be positive. Be safe, and do join us in our next talk. Do give us your feedback. Other social media sites, we are there, and we will continue to bring these videos to you and these views from all of us to you. And you are more than welcome to give us your positive feedback or negative feedback. Thank you, our guests, for joining us today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Syed. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It was very interesting. Bye-bye.